All right, so track guides. All track guides, if you load up into the Sports Car Endurance Racing League, come here over to Sessions. Every track guide is based on the Thursday night practice. So you can see here there's two. There's November 6th, which is the Thursday night, November 7th, which is race night, and it's the same for every single track. So you'll be going on the first one is all static conditions. The second one is actually the conditions that we are racing in. So what I did is for the first um, Thursday night practice sessions, you jump in here, view sessions, pick whatever car you want, and then you come down here and you go to test drive. It's all static conditions. So for Daytona, it's going to be set. These are the static conditions, and it's set at the time that roughly the race will start at in real life, in the actual event. So it's the same for every single track. I've tried to set it up for the same conditions as the start of the race for the Friday nights. So just come in here, pick whatever car you want, and do the test drive. All right, welcome to the track guide for the GR86. This is Daytona round one. Um, I did two things here with the GR86. I'm going to do more in depth for this class since it is the kind of beginner slash um, less extreme racing class anyway. We're going to have a little bit, should be a little bit better competition. So what I did is I did two sets of laps, one all out push, which was my 211.7, and then I did some with fuel save, and the fastest one here was a 212.1, but you can see it was much more consistent here with the 0.4, 0.4, 0.4, whereas here I was trying to push in and I was consistent, but there was definitely some time slips here and there, mistakes here and there. So let's start with the 211.7. We're going to play it at full speed, and then I'll slow down and talk about it the second time around. And there you go. That's lap one. That's the fast lap. So we're going to go back to it and talk about it. All right, so let's slow it down. So we're going to come here. We're coming into turn one. And pause it here. You can see the 1-2 line, and then there's the yellow lines here. We're going to continue. One thing I wanted to let you guys know, if you can watch the other videos, you'll see the other cars break way earlier than the GR86. So the GR86 is quite um, you can get really late on the brakes, and you can carry probably a little bit more apex speed than the other cars as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We'll talk about that more in my fuel safe lap. But for this one here, this is an all-out attack. This is like a qualifying push. Basically, I'm coming out to the wall here, And as I come closer to this yellow line, I'm going to start turning in. You can see I am already starting to turn in here. Getting closer, I'm starting to kind of lift up on the brakes. And before I get to the yellow line, kind of as I'm crossing the seam, I'm going to get on the brakes fairly aggressively. You can see probably about 80%, and I'm braking out towards this white line. And I'm going to start, I don't go all the way out, kind of past this seam here, and then I'm going to aggressively kind of turn in. Meanwhile, while I'm doing all this braking, you can see my steering wheel, I'm starting to kind of come to the left, and I'm preloading the tires so that when I do eventually crank the wheel left a little bit more, that slip angle is already adjusted. I had time to adjust to kind of slip to the right a little bit, and then you're kind of just dancing on that edge. So you can see here, all the way to the right, getting across that seam, and now I'm starting to cut in. I really trail brake a little bit, and then I get aggressive on the throttle before I get into the apex. The apex is basically right after the radius of this here, over here. So one thing to notice with this GR86, and you're going to see a lot with the fuel save map or lap, is aggressive on throttle on exit is before the apex is pretty much key to this car. So I'll slow down here, super aggressive on throttle. You can see my steering just bobbles a little bit because I get that rear end to slide a little bit, which helps me rotate quite a bit. Full throttle, this section super easy. Full throttle, over the curb, over the curb. Come all the way to the left here. Other cars, they're braking around this kind of three dotted lines. GR86, you go much further than that. It's kind of hard to find a brake marker. Maybe you can kind of line it up where these cones are kind of sliding off your screen type thing. So let's get on the brakes. See, yeah, so where these cones are kind of getting off the screen, it's when I'm going to get off throttle and then heavy on the brakes. You can see on the left-hand side, the palm trees are a little ways away, the pole here, kind of roughly where the restrooms here. I guess near this palm tree here, you can kind of use that as a peripheral vision between these palm trees and the restroom. As it kind of gets out of your screen, off the throttle, all the way out to the left here. Hard on the brakes, 95%ish. Starting to turn in. What I want to do with this car a lot is a very late turn in so that I can get on the throttle and get out of the corners fast. So because it's such a slow car, you want to maximize that exit speed. So you can kind of sacrifice a little bit of entry speed to maximize the exit speed to get as best launch out of here so that you lose as least amount of time as possible. So slow it down, trail brake and trail brake and trail brake in, starting to turn in, trying to get the right tires over this curb. See, I'm still trail braking, then I'll get aggressive on throttle and the turn in. Two right tires on the curb. Full throttle. You don't need to go all the way to the left here because this car is kind of slow enough that you don't need to use all the track. All this is all full throttle, cut across the left here. You don't need to go all the way to the exit here. You can stick to the left. It uses much less track, so it gains you time. Coming up to this here, you've got the opening here. I'm going to start braking kind of closer to this darker line here. So darker line, still not. So yeah, you're getting closer to this kind of exit of this entry. Um, all the other cars are pretty much braking around here, the other classes. So you're braking so much later than everybody else. So on the brakes, kind of braking while slightly turning. Not so aggressive at the beginning, but you're going to continue to trail brake and you're going to start turning in quite a bit. I like to get kind of an early apex on this one. And again, you're going to mash that throttle and use that curb to kind of hop the car along. It's going to hit this curb. It's going to get a little upset. The rear end's going to rotate a little bit. And then you're going to just keep on going out here. So you can see here, boop, rotate, and then on the throttle again, all the way to the exit of this track, this corner, onto the curbing. And then you're going to slowly track to the right till you get to the opening here. You're not going to really get onto the brakes until you get closer to these yellow curb. Just before it, I'm off throttle and onto the brake, and then I'm going to aggressively cut this left-hander and get us on throttle as fast as possible. So you can see here, here's the curbs. I'm starting to get on the brakes, off the throttle, pretty aggressively at first, like 85%, then really early apexing, cutting across. You can see here, my two left tires are coming into the grass a little bit here, and I'm already on throttle pretty aggressively. And then as soon as I clear that curb, boom, full throttle. And two ways of doing this corner. You'll see my fuel save lap, I stick to the inside, but on this one, I'm going full out push. I'm going all the way to the wall, and I'm going to use the banking of the corner to speed me up. So all the way to the wall, and then fall down with the banking. That'll help you accelerate down the straightaway. I'm going to fast forward this because this car is a little bit slow. I'm always sticking to the left as close to these lines as possible. Now I'm tracking out to the right, coming close to the wall. Most of these cars are going to break around the 2. Not this car. You're going to go all the way to the 1. Um, this is also a big thing to notice with this car. So here I come. There's a green light. 1's here. I'm going to brake slightly before that. So I'm getting on the brakes, off the throttle, on the brakes. Watch how aggressive I can make these corner cuts with this car. So I'm way onto the curb with this car. I believe I'm down to 3rd gear on the exit here, so I'm jumping these very aggressively, playing with my throttle, coming across here, again, jumping these curbs, very aggressive, and you can cut these quite a lot. So a big difference with all the other cars, they can't do this. They have to kind of stick with this inside curb because these big knobs here just destroy their car and make them spin out. But the GR86, you can carry so much more speed into this whole bus stop. So be very careful. If there's cars passing you on the inside, you'll want to lift quite early and just allow them to get back in front of you. And when you start to turn in for this one, you're gonna have to be very careful that you don't get into the back of them and make them spin because it's so much easier for these cars, the GR86s, to just attack these curbs. You'll see here, I was just trail braking. As soon as you get off the curb, still trail braking, down to 3rd gear, boom, throttle, jumping this curb, jumping this curb, jumping the curb, and off we go. Now I'm just sticking to the yellow line the entire way. But yeah, that section is going to be very difficult with the other cars. You almost want to make sure lift even earlier so that they have a bit more room going into it. And then you come to the line, and that one was a 211.7. So that was a full push lap. Let's do the far chase without comments. Far chase for that lap. And then we'll move on to the fuel save lap. And then we go all the way to the end here. Fast forward. And boom. All right, so that's 211.7. Let's jump over here to the 212.1. So number one, consistency. Why do you want to lift and coast? you'll do consistency because those front tires will remain at a better temperature, and you can easily maintain, well, not easily, but you can maintain a better overall average than if you're just pushing constantly. Eventually, this time will drop off because the front tires are starting to get eaten up. But yeah, consistency and more laps. So typically with this fuel save, let's go to my cockpit view. Come on, cockpit. There we go. So typically with the fuel save method, you'll get an extra lap, maybe two. You'll have better average pace, so you'll have less mistakes, and it'll be easier with traffic because you tend to let them all go in the braking zone, and that way you can have the corner to yourself. Obviously, if they're fighting, there's 2x2 type thing. That's a different scenario. Um, but usually, if it's just one car coming at you, you let them go, lift nice and early, and then you'll fuel save, and then you'll come in, and you can get it in the exit much better. So obviously, I mentioned it before, but this car you want to nail those exits as best as possible so that you can carry speed on the straightaway. That's where most of your time will be found. So fuel save lap coming in here. Before we were braking, just before coming into this corner where the light, so crossing this kind of seam. If I'm fuel saving, I can do it around this mark here. Be aware, GT4s and BMW M2s will probably be braking around this point here. So if they're coming at you, if you see them in your rearview mirror, you watch your mirror. If they're pretty close, you might want to even lift a little bit earlier. Just allow them to get ahead of you so that when you get into the corner, they're not in your way and you can do your own line. Be aware that this car probably has higher apex speed than all the other cars. So if you're right on their ass coming into the braking zone, you're going to compromise yourself on the exit. So I would let them like continue, like it's way better to lift off even earlier, let them get way ahead of you, and then maximize that exit speed so that the next car can't pass you. So coming in here, you can see lifting, just coasting for quite a while. Now I'm braking. Same thing as the last lap, except I'm really maximizing that exit quite well because those front tires are not overheating under the hard braking. We're gonna, sorry, my cat's going nuts. Hey, all right, let's continue on. So again, last time was when the cones were kind of in the view. Here we're going to start with these three dots. We're going to lift and coast. So we're going to pretend these cars are coming at us, and they're coming down the inside, and then we're going to lift and coast. So you're going to see here these three lines. Boom, lift and coast. Just going to sit here, then start braking. You can see there's so much coasting going on, and I don't need to press the brakes very hard. This is just a nice, very relaxed way of driving. No mistakes. And it's so easy to just kind of nail your apexes and stuff. I would really practice this. Obviously, at the first, you're going to make a little bit of mistakes, but once you've practiced the lift and coast method a few times, you'll see it's just super consistent. You can just nail it every single time. We're going to keep fast forward. So again, last time you were braking kind of around here. Most other cars are going to brake around this mark here. And then we're going to see here lift and coast. Now I'm going to get on the brakes. Come into the inside here, heavy on throttle, and then off we go. Again, this one here, we were braking around the yellow curbs. You're gonna see here, gonna lift and coast, lift, brake and brake, brake. Yeah, so there's lots of lift and coast, and it really helps you maximize that exit. It's much easier to keep those front tires alive. One thing that's big difference here is this corner here. Instead of going all the way out wide and using the banking, if you want to fuel save, I recommend keeping it tight. Keep it very tight. You're going to cut distance off the racetrack, which helps you with fuel save. So you'll see here, I come immediately to the left, and I'm hugging the inside here. Whereas in the fast lap, I was way up here, and then I'm using the banking to come down. On this one here, I'm gaining a bunch of time on the entry. I'm going to lose it down the straightaway, but at the same time, I'm saving fuel because I'm not traveling as far on the racetrack. Let's go all the way to the edge. All right, last time I was breaking around the one. You're going to see here, you can lift and coast. I mean, it depends how many cars are coming at you. You're going to watch. You can do the 3 if you want. You lift and coast. I like going kind of just where the 2 is. It helps me like just stabilize the car before I get back on the brakes. So we're going to slow it down. You can see here 2. And off the throttle. Look at all this time just lifting and coasting here. Lots of cars can get by. Boom. There's the 1. I'm going to brake. I don't even need to brake very hard. I can just kind of coast it. Lets me attack these curbs fairly easily. So I attack them. Attack, back on throttle, and out we go. So that's a lift and coast method. Lots of these corners, you're going to want to stay on your line. So what I really want these GR86s to do is I want you guys to stay on your racing line and let other cars react to you. So if they're coming up at you, you don't worry about them. They're going to come up wide here and they're going to come back down and then go back at it. Don't get out of their way. I want you guys to focus on racing your own line and then allowing these other cars, they're supposed to be the higher I rated guys. They're supposed to be the better guys. Let them get around you safely and you worry about yourself. So if you're coming up to these racing lines, when you're braking zones, you do your thing. What you're going to have to watch out is if they are on your inside, make sure you don't turn in on them. If they're ahead of you at the apex, make sure you don't run into them in the back. What we do with the GR86 and the other classes is for them to be not penalized if they're making an overtake. They need to be in the braking zone, their braking zone, not your braking zone. So when they get on the brakes, they need to be with some overlap on you. So if they're behind you before they get on the brakes, and in the first part I told you kind of where they're braking, um, they don't have the right to dive bomb you. So you should be able to take your line. If they dive bomb you, uh, I mean, I'd drive defensive. Just be cautious about that. But if they do dive bomb you and damage you guys, report it. I highly encourage to report it. They will get penalized because they were not side by side or did not have any overlap before their braking zone. They were not allowed to do that move. Um, I know season 1, there's been some incidents that happened that way that were never reported, and that some people got annoyed and left the series. But I don't want that. You guys paid your money to race in this. I want to make sure that the other classes are not going to bully the GR86 out of the way. So as long as you drive your line, you allow the other cars to make those overtakes, safe overtakes. And if they try to dive bomb on the inside and they were not at least had some overlap under braking, um, they'll get a penalty for that. So what I don't want you to do is just kind of be unpredictable to other people. So if you just change your lines like, oh, that'll be easier for them, well, they might not know that. So don't do that. Stick on your racing line and allow them to make that overtake. So that's it for the Daytona track guide. We'll see you guys on track for the coaching session 1 week before the actual race.